Hello, kiddies. It's your old pal John Kassir, the voice of the Crypt Keeper. And I hope you get to check out my good fiends at A Decade of Horror on the PSVG Podcast Network. I hope you love them like I do. They're a scream.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
Greetings, ghouls and ghosts. My name is Donnie Reese, and welcome back to PSVG's A Decade of Horror, the latest podcast on the PSVG Podcast Network, bringing you all the scary movies and thrills leading up to Halloween. This episode, gentlemen, I am excited for. This is the one I've been waiting on. 2013. What a year in scary movies it was. I have so many fond memories when I think back, especially going back and rewatching and digging up some of these movies and fun facts. I've got lots of notes. This might be our longest episode yet, but before we get to that, let me introduce the full Scream team that's here again. Josh and Lucas, welcome back. Brothers, how are you doing?
Hi. I should have another beer, huh?
That's right. That's right. You might want to put in a request now to have a delivery in about 45 minutes, because I don't think this is going to be a short one. But before we break into all, Josh, why don't you set the mood and tell us the year that was 2013?
The year was 2013, and I was in peak
physical prime.
That's where I was going too. I'm like, you were sexy, weren't you?
You know how you do when you're that age.
When you're in 2013, yeah.
Okay, here we go. 2013, coming at you hard and fast. Literally,
when in Rome, right?
Lance Armstrong is found out.
Oh, no.
2013. Oh, 2013 was a bad year.
How do you guys feel about Lance Armstrong?
Say that about every year.
How do you guys feel about Lance?
He cheated.
But didn't everybody? Didn't they find out basically afterwards that everybody that was on that stage, they all cheated? So
here's the thing.
Yeah, he cheated,
Not
but he was also
cheated.
the best of the cheaters. But like most people cheated.
Right, but the people who didn't cheat didn't.
They were like last, but there was like 3 people out of like 300.
Isn't every sport just like if you're not?
How big is that blanket?
Then you're not.
I mean,
winning?
have you looked it up? Like all of the contenders for like the years that followed after Lance, they were all like right.
People cheated?
I mean, I use that as a blanket, but I think it was actually like 90%. They were all caught. So the people that weren't, they can claim that they weren't, but just because they claim they weren't doesn't mean they didn't, as Lance proved, right?
It is terrible regardless. You're taking the sport out of the sport.
I mean, I agree, but I do. You know what? I feel the same way about roids and baseball. Like if everybody was doing it, then I still honor those that did it, and or
stealing signs.
Well, here's the thing, though. Like it made cycling. I haven't heard of cycling before since like it made cycling something to watch, and now cycling
for Americans,
not. Right?
For Americans,
good point.
Because we're the center of the universe. I know.
Hey, well,
it's still huge in France.
I'm just talking about my universe. I'm glad it's huge in France, but I don't care.
Lance Armstrong.
Is that good or bad for the sport that I don't care?
That's fair. I mean, more people watch
world sport.
More people watch football with a U than any sport in America. So I guess Americans really know where it's at.
Okay. All right.
Yes, center of the universe. Speaking of, the Boston Marathon bombing happened, which is a very close to home thing for me.
It's close to home for me. Not that I have any, When
I was looking up this stuff, I legitimately got teary-eyed because there's a little bit more. I have a very specific memories of this. It was really tough. Really tough.
I work for a road race every year, and that moment put our road race in a whole new world.
Terrifying. Right?
From that moment forward, I'll never forget watching it while I was happening live. I was like, our entire July just got revamped, and it did, and we've never come back since. And that's a good thing, I guess. But it's a bad thing that we ever thought we had to prepare for something like that.
Well, I'll skip a little bit ahead on my list and cycle back. No pun intended, Lance Armstrong. Because of the emotion regarding that, and maybe we need some good news, is that also in 2013, the Boston Red Sox won the World Series.
Nice.
And that
Speaking of
was really powered by the Boston Strong movement. I guarantee it. Those players played like there was no tomorrow. It was an insane year for us, ups and downs. We had a government shutdown. I know that's not necessarily super unique, but it definitely was at that time.
Yeah, wow. Forgot about that.
We had a PlayStation 4 and Xbox One release.
Wow. Yeah. Going
How
back.
about that?
I was still in college at this time.
Jeez.
Yeah.
That was when I knew that I was no longer going to play NHL anymore because,
Professionally?
yeah, professionally, obviously.
You had to hang up your skates.
What else would I be talking about? Because everybody was moving on to Xbox One, and I was going to get left behind.
That's too bad. Well, now you have dreams of an NHL for throwback in 94 throwback game.
Yeah, as long as there's league modes, then we'll be good.
Watch that also not come to PC.
SHL. my
Okay,
God.
so last year we talked about Facebook going public, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, in 2013, Twitter goes public at $26 a share. Do you guys want to guess what Twitter is trading at close of business Friday?
175.
50.
$39.26.
That was
Bad investment on
Yep.
Twitter. Snowden leaks
That's
it
so
all.
surprising. Wait a minute, that's so surprising.
Twitter has a hard
Everybody
time monetizing. That's the difference.
That's true. Ads
Yeah.
and everything. I forget about
Yeah.
that. I was gonna say everybody goes there for their news now.
Yeah,
Like,
they do. But they don't make any money off of it.
Yeah.
That's been the issue with Twitter the whole time.
This is why I'm not good at business.
Snowden leaks. Snowden is a leaker. This happens in 2013.
Clean up.
Snowden
after
leaks.
Snowden.
Miley Cyrus twerks on Robin Thicke in the Beetlejuice outfit.
Oh, yeah.
What a sentence.
Did I ever think I would say that? No. But did I say it? Yes, I did.
And we're all better for it.
Hunger Games Catching Fire comes in at number 1 at the box office.
Number one.
Nice.
Thrift Shop is number 1 on the Billboard charts.
Yeah,
to
I remember
close
that
the year
phase.
out. The Baltimore Ravens win the Super Bowl. The Miami Heat win the NBA championship. Chicago Blackhawks win the Stanley Cup.
The Ravens
Rob
won?
Ford plus crack.
I don't
It's
remember
what I
the
put.
Ravens winning at all.
Yeah,
The Ravens won another Super Bowl?
They beat us to make it to the Super Bowl.
Ah, okay.
When I say us, I mean the New England Patriots.
Gotcha.
Yeah, Rob Ford has a crack problem, and I don't mean the butt version. We lose Nelson Mandela.
Oh.
Paula Dean lets you know how she really feels about a certain group of people.
Mm.
Dennis Rodman begins his love affair with Kim Jong.
Mm-hmm.
Selfie,
Buddies.
FOMO, and twerk get added to the dictionary.
Oh, sad day. Urban Dictionary, right?
Nope. The
Webster's.
Webster's dictionary.
Who is Webster?
He's some guy who's dead. Or girl. The first 3D gun is printed.
America.
Oh, yeah. That
Hooray.
whole problem.
Was it in America? It had to be, right?
It had to
Texas,
be.
yeah.
I don't have that fact in front of me.
I remember it was blue, I think.
It is blue, yeah. It was blue, yes.
Abba-dee-abba-da.
Like Halo?
And to end off 2013, in my research, we lose Roger Ebert, Tom Clancy, and James Gandolfini.
Oof.
Wow.
Among others, I actually left out a bunch of people who passed, but I just wanted to give you that.
Sorry.
Heavy
for those
hitters.
opposite. Wow. They keep dying, too.
Every year.
Oh my God. I mean, I guess that is horror specific kind of in genre.
Sure, it's grotesque,
Yeah.
morbidly obese.
Sure, I get it. Lucas,
Yeah.
as you normally do, rescue the show.
I shall.
I really
Top
set you
three.
up good. I give you a good setup every
Well,
time.
let's see. I don't know. Let's see how you feel about this top three. After 2012, I feel like it was pretty bleak. We didn't have a lot to say about it. 2013, top 3 grossing horror movies of said year.
Number three.
Number 3. Everyone likes
Out of 5.
Insidious Chapter 2. Because we
Oh.
need sequels. The world needs sequels. Here's the thing, though, guys. Horror movies are making buku bucks. Number 3 coming in at grossing $83.59 million. That's
Wow.
more than...
Most years.
That's double than... Or no, that's not double. Never mind. Anyways, continue on. Number 2, The Conjuring. Oh, Metascore 40, by the way. Insidious.
40.
For Insidious. The Conjuring, $137 million.
Damn straight it did.
Wow. Marketing campaign was amazing, I feel like, on this movie, if I remember correctly. Just the whole kind of brings back ideas of Blair Witch, where real story.
They earned my $28.
It also gave Vera Farmiga and Patrick Wilson like forever horror cred.
Save it for the show. Save it for the show.
Metascore 68.
That's
Spoiler
too low.
Better.
That's way too low.
Spoiler alert! I said.
Damn critics.
Ousted by what I feel. Well, I guess we may get into it. Let's see.
Dark Skies.
Number one. World War Z.
I figured that would be number 1.
Staggering $202 million.
Yeah, that's Brad Pitt
Yeah.
money.
Yeah.
Unfortunate because it cost them $150 million to make the movie. Probably.
Also Brad Pitt money.
Not the zombies. This is all
Lucas, out of your 3 box office hits, one of them made my 3. One of them.
Whoa.
Two.
One of them
Oh.
made my 3 as well.
Oh, I can't wait to find out.
Is it all the same 3? Next
No,
week.
It's not. Next week.
Tune in next week.
Get them on a cliffhanger.
All right. I will kick off with my 3rd, but before I do, I want to say I love this year, 2013, as we've been preparing to, as I've been alluding to leading up to it. Boy, I came here with movies, and I feel like my 3, I'm real confident in my 3. My 3 are real good, but I brought 8. There are 8 that I think
Before
are worth
we started
mentioning.
recording, you're like, I don't know my 3 though.
Right, right. I mean,
You're like,
it's,
I'm confident
I
in
knew
my
the
3.
3. I knew the 3, but there were so many good ones. It's like I want to mention them all. That's the point I'm trying to make. This is a year that in a decade of horror, I could pull many movies from this year that are better than movies from other years, in my opinion. Like this year is a standout year for horror flicks.
Can't go wrong.
How did you guys feel when you guys were pulling your movies?
I don't think you have this movie on your list.
Okay.
I Spit on Your Grave 2.
Nope.
Let me read this line to you. I Spit on Your Grave 2 is a 2013 American rape and revenge horror film directed by Stephen R. Monroe. What?
That is what that is.
Believe it.
I've seen it.
Yeah, I've seen
It's
the first
not on my list, but I've
Why
seen
read
them.
that into the description of your film?
I mean,
That's all. I just kind of...
it's a selling point for some
apt,
people.
It's an apt description of what that movie is.
No, it certainly is. It just
Say A Tale of Revenge and leave it at that.
Tale of
maybe the
Revenge.
marketing budget was lower on that film.
I pulled a very quick list together, and there are definitely some that are not going to make the list that I think make it in other years. You know, we're talking about, as we've already done this, our 4th episode, we're talking about other movies, other years. It was hard to scrounge up, and it feels bad that if we pull a movie per year, that several of these movies will be left off. But
I have 9 on my list, but I haven't seen them all.
okay. I've seen every one on my list, all 8. And number 3 coming for me is You're Next, directed by Adam Wingard, who also did Death Note, 2016's Blair Witch, which is terrible, and Godzilla vs. Kong and VHS 2, starring Sharni Venson. Did this movie make either of your lists?
It did
Okay.
not for me.
Well, it didn't make my list.
Have either of you seen it? No?
No, but I also thought it came out in 2011.
Yeah, I was
which is
gonna
why
say,
it
this is
didn't
one-
even make my.
Came
And
out
I know
in
it came out
United-
in 2013.
Came out in the United States August
Right.
23rd,
Yeah.
2013.
This has always been a movie I wanted to see.
Josh, I think you would love it. Personally, I think you'd love it. I would highly recommend it to you.
Writes down.
Okay.
You're
I think it's one of the best modern slasher flicks since the 80s.
Wow.
I think I really love what it does. It's very funny, but it's not Cabin in the Woods funny. It's not meaning to be that funny. It's just dumb funny. Like the dialogue is very funny. What they're saying to each other while things are happening is very funny. It's also very twisty. There are narrative twists. There are things happening that you don't think are happening until they happen, and you're like, oh, this is a new revealing thing. Very, very good. If you've watched like The Hunt, which is like the new movie that came out this year in 2020, it kind of does The Hunt, but before The Hunt and back in 2013. Our star lady, our final girl, is a badass, and that's what I love most about this movie. Your Next does in a slasher what the audience watching slashers for years have always wanted the person to do. And that's the thing that I love most about this movie. Because every time you've watched Michael or Jason or Freddy or Chucky, you have the naysayers that, what do they say? Like run away, hide, kick his ass, like punch. She does. She beats the shit out of folks. And it is awesome and it's novel. And I remember at the time it was refreshing. And now that I watch it back, I don't think it's as refreshing as it was. Because I think a lot of movies have done it since. As I mentioned, The Hunt. But just remember, like, I don't think up until 2013 that was like a real big thing to do. I think it was novel in that way, and it was refreshing. And it doesn't have a stellar cast, and it doesn't have like a legacy director and a long line of hits. But I think what they've done as they pulled together is really, really good. It's kind of like Cabin Fever. Maybe meets like a Scream or something like that. It's kind of self-aware and funny in the way, but it's also very good slasher. It's got really good kills. It's very brutal, but it's very funny. It's very twisty, and I really liked it. I really, really do. And I stand by my statement. I think when it comes to the 2010s and comes to slashers, I think it stands as good or at the top with all of them. I would recommend Your Next over Green Room, for example. I think it's a much better film. So, wow. I really, really liked it, and let's see here. I'm going to look at my notes, see if I get anything out of the way. I wrote down it's the best horror take on Home Alone, and it really is, if you remember Home Alone. And I said it's one of my favorite horror movie endings, and it's also one of my favorite final girls of all time.
Wow.
So, and I think the ending actually might be one of the things that I think I remember most about it, is it doesn't have... We talked about this a little bit, and I bring it up often. One of the things I don't like about horror movies is I feel like they're so far out of the norm that they're hard to end. And I think that's why we end up with so many horror movies that kind of fall on their face. Everything just kind of devolves at the end as a means to get out. This doesn't. Even the ending itself is a twist, and it is great. And nice. I loved it. I think it's one of my favorite horror movies of the decade. So we've talked about our final episode. We're going to recap our entire list and throw another fan favorite on there. You can expect to hear Your Next later, because I feel it's just a testament to how good this year is that I love this movie so much, and it's only third.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
This is a good year for you. Adam Wingard directing Kong versus Godzilla.
Yeah.
And I just saw the figures are out at Target. Tangent for this little
nice.
Adam Wingard. I will definitely watch this sooner rather than later.
I'm very excited to hear what you think. I wouldn't recommend it to everybody. I will recommend it to you. I have a feeling I think you like it. I hope I don't prop it up too much for you. I don't, it's not a revolutionary horror movie, but what it does well. Some of the things, I rewatched it, some of the lines that they say to each other are absolutely hysterical. And they're all foreshadowing, like towards the end. And there's like this one, I do want to spoil it because it's old. And I know a lot of people maybe not watched it.
Watch it tomorrow.
One of the characters gets shot in the back with an arrow. And he says something to somebody, and they respond with like this really ridiculous response. He's like, "Oh yeah, you can get them on eBay. They're like $50." He's like, "You dick! Of course you would say something." And it's like all of this is happening while they're being haunted, and like while all these things are happening, a person's been shot. It's that weird. I don't know. It's like that weird. It's just like the family bickering that's continuing to happen while everything is going wrong. And that's the funny part. Like that's the funny part. And I think if you can get that that's meant to be funny, I think you'll enjoy more of this movie than if you just think it's dumb. I think there might be segments. I think there might be people that are like, "Oh, this is stupid," whereas I was like, "This is hilarious," because I could totally see people shooting at me and my family and us yelling at each other. That hits
Told
home.
you to duck. No, you didn't. You said
Exactly.
stand up.
That hits close to home. That hits close to home for me. So I think that makes me enjoy it more.
Awesome. We'll watch that.
I need to watch it again because I saw it a long time ago, and it's just there's like Lucas pre-film school when I watched movies, and there's Lucas post-film school when I watch movies, and it seems like for some reason my memory is just so bad.
This isn't a film. This is a movie.
No. Yeah, we're talking about the horror genre here. Come on.
I was gonna say I think a lot of people either compare it or think of it, and I think I understand why, to The Strangers. And it's because a lot of the assailants wear masks, and it is kind of a home invasion thing, but they are nothing close. Like, they are very, very different. That is basically the only comparison you can make, is that some of the people wear masks. So I didn't like that about it. And I say that as somebody who loves The Strangers. Both of you know that. I think The Strangers, the original Strangers, one of my favorite horror movies ever. So, yeah, I think
Who's your favorite stranger? Cousin Larry or Balky?
I like
old person joke. Perfect strangers joke. Someone got that. There's a listener that is laughing.
Is there?
Oh,
Write into us. Let us know. psvg.blog/discord.
Make sure you tag us on.
It's probably Kevin. Just skip.
No, don't Kevin. Kevin, don't respond. Anyone else?
All right, Josh, number 3.
Okay, so my number 3 is Texas Chainsaw 3D.
Wow.
Was not expecting that.
Did not make
And I wasn't either. I have a weird feeling that I'm a fan of these teeny, angsty remakes.
I love a teeny, angsty horror movie.
The Friday the 13th one I really like.
I do too.
I came around really, I really enjoyed that Nightmare on Elm Street. What I really like about this Texas Chainsaw one, I did not see in 3D. All right, so listen. So Texas Chainsaw 3D, it stars my favorite actress ever, Alexandra Daddario, and I'm half joking with that. And so, it also stars, for you Lost fans, it stars the girl who plays Alex, which is Ben's daughter from Lost. I think her name was Alex in Lost.
You lost.
I think, I don't want to butcher her name. Anywho, it's probably listed in here, right?
Yeah. Well, who did she play as?
Her name is Tanya Raymond. She was Ben. Remember Ben from Lost?
Yeah.
She was his daughter. She found out he was his daughter. She found out she was his daughter later in the
spoilers.
Series. Anyways, Danny's back. He has a pen
in his mouth.
And he is about to take an estimate on the roof. What I really liked about this movie is what it did differently from these remakes. It picks up from the end of the first Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And not only that, but the movie opening is littered with clips from the first movie that are interlaced into current film scenes, and it's hard to even tell what's old and what's new, at least right away, with some of the establishing shots. And then it slowly transitions into the takeover of, the police show up to this house because the girl gets away at the end of the original Chainsaw Massacre, and I haven't seen the sequels except for the Matthew McConaughey Renee Zellweger one, which I'll never make atop any list of anything.
That's the one we deserve.
Yeah, it's the one we deserve for sure. But what I really like about it is it really feels like a continuation of this story, traditional proper sequel, even though it's 8 movies later.
Yeah,
and it really feels right. So I don't want to spoil. I mean,
that's what we do.
We're talking
it's
about
a movie review
movies,
podcast.
But you have this thing where the town gets word that this dude is killing people, and they show up while the cop negotiated the release of this guy who's really just a mentally challenged kid that was raised by this house of this family from the X-Files, if you know that episode that I'm referring to, that everyone's related. And they're like, fine, we'll let him go if you'll just leave us alone. And they're about to let him go, and then the townspeople show up and burn the place down, and they steal a baby from this house, and the baby is Alexander Daddario. So like this is like crazy. It's very well thought up. Now the delivery, it's wishy-washy, right? Like there's definitely that teeny angsty group of friends who don't really belong, like don't really have each other's back and don't really belong together, but they're just kind of like forced into this situation. It has Scott Eastwood, who just came up on my Fast and Furious podcast in it, which this didn't come up when we were talking about his credits. I want to look up the director because he did the Leatherface film, which I think which is like the spiritual sequel.
I thought this was a spiritual sequel to the beginning.
Yeah, it is. It's like a direct sequel to the first movie.
So,
and ignoring every other Texas movie.
No, I'm sorry. I thought this was a sequel to Texas Chainsaw: The Beginning, the one that came out a few years before it,
with Jessica Biel.
Yes, and Dior Baird. And
you know what? Actually, no, because with the clips they show, it's from the original.
Okay.
At the beginning, so it's definitely like immediately.
I've seen it. I remember it. But I guess it's not very memorable because I don't remember a whole lot about it.
Yeah, I think if you ask me to recount Friday the 13th, the remake, I can tell you that Jensen Ackles is in it, and that it takes place in a cabin and people have sex. But I still enjoyed the movie a lot.
I'm sure you did. As by your quick memory.
Well, that's every Friday the 13th.
So the thing that I was going to say is I have a couple things here. This comes at a time where there's a lot of remakes. I feel like the Texas Chainsaw remakes was basically like somebody did Halloween and it was good, so they were like, let's remake everything. Yes. And I definitely feel like maybe I got burnt out, so maybe I didn't give this one the full attention that I should have. But also, Texas Chainsaw has been rebooted and remade so many goddamn times that I never want to watch not the original again. It's not like Friday the 13th. It's not like Jason. I'm open to seeing new takes on those stories.
Yeah.
Texas Chainsaw story I've seen so many damn times. It's like, somebody give me a Texas Chainsaw that I haven't seen yet. Yeah. Where is the Renee Zellweger?
Leatherface in New York.
It's like, give me something else because it's
I hear you on that.
The original, which I'm so planning to watch with the wife. She hates Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but that's because I took her to the Jessica Biel one, and that's all she thinks Texas Chainsaw is. And she thinks Texas Chainsaw is like the most gory, sawrific thing, and I keep telling her the original isn't. It's not like that. It was in its time, but in our time, it's not. It's considered kind of clean, and I'm like, but it's perfect. It's one of the best horror movies of all time, and I can't wait to rewatch it this year. It's definitely on the top of my to-do list, actually. So it's timeful that you brought that up, but at the same time, I mean, I've watched all of them but Leatherface. I haven't seen Leatherface
either. I will say I did look it up. It is the 7th installment in Texas Chainsaw, but it is a direct sequel to the 74 film. Even having 2 of the stars from the 74
And I guess maybe I thought that in my head because the beginning is basically a remake. So,
yes, that is the remake. Yeah.
So I guess maybe I was just going there because they're both modern that I actually thought it was a follow-up. It's like I watched the one with Jessica Biel, and now this is the sequel because the original one is basically a prequel or a re-beginning.
To offer some criticism, I will say this. So when they open the film, they do show a lot of kills from the first movie. And it reminds you of how simple and elegant like kills were back then to cut to movies like this where they're just a little.
They cut away from a lot of the gore. It's a lot of implied gore.
Yeah, it's like a hammer, it hits a guy, and then you don't see anything else. But now we're in these films where like you have to see the hammer
not actually
break
hanging people on
fragments
hooks.
of bone. Yeah.
Yeah, and
I show them hang a girl on hooks, but all she does is scream. Like you don't see the hook hanging. But that's from an older film. Yeah. Nowadays, you have to see it go through the front of their chest. Otherwise, so I definitely appreciate like the nuance of like the older films where you it's up to your imagination.
And
You
that's
don't have to
scarier.
see. Yeah, it's definitely scary.
That's why
'cause you
people that are older
picturing it.
than us that saw Texas Chainsaw in theaters, that's why it has the zeitgeist, the rumor mill of that it has. That's why people think it's that way, because they were scared to death to think what was happening on screen.
Right.
It's actually one of the things I bring up quite often about Child's Play. A lot of people make fun of Chucky, and it's like the original Child's Play was terrifying.
It was
you,
terrifying.
You never see Chucky for like 2/3 of the movie. You never see what's going on. It's all implied. I miss that in films. I missed it quite a bit, and I didn't like the Texas Chainsaw where it was like, let's show you Texas Chainsaw meets Saw and Hostel. It's like, no, you're ruining one of the classic horror movies of all time. Don't do this. So I probably have bias that clouds my judgment from ever wanting to like it, to be honest with you.
No, and that's totally valid. If I saw more movies on my short list of movies, it might not make it. It is number 3 after all. However, I still think this is a movie worth seeing just because of how loyal it is to the first film. If you liked the first film. Otherwise, don't bother.
Love the original. I love the original. It's one of the best.
Yeah, it's worth watching. Even if you don't love it on the whole, I think there's a lot done in homage to the original film that you can get some enjoyment.
And I would offer, even if you don't watch the original, maybe you look up how the original was made. It's a story in itself. Like what the cast and the crew went through to pull off what became the original and how it took off, and like
is that on that series
when it was released? I'm sorry?
Is that on that series?
No. These are just things that I've picked up when I've researched it and find it and on YouTube. And so I would love it because it was brutal. I think there was some behind the scenes commentary that I think I watched. I think that's what I'm recalling. Not exactly. It might have just been on YouTube, but they were filming like just with cameras and like 105 degrees. Like it was just brutally awful. And everybody basically hated it. And then the movie comes out and it was universally beloved and it basically made a star out of everybody. It was fantastic. I mean, obviously, Tobe Hooper goes down forever, right?
Yes.
He's icon, Mount Rushmore. So,
Yep.
Cool.
That's my number 3. We spend too much time on my number 3.
It's going to be a great year. This is a great episode, guys. But
that's okay,
Lucas.
I'm here to bring it down. No, that'll be number 2, but we'll go with number 3 for now. You guys remember a little movie called Mama?
Mama.
Yes, I do.
I tried to watch this, Lucas. I couldn't find it anywhere.
Oh, that's too bad. Again, the commercials for this, when the commercial the trailer has some kind of hook, or something like that, then it sticks in your memory.
I just looked at the poster from the creator of Pan's Labyrinth, which is what got me to watch it.
Yeah.
Yes. And it's always confusing when it comes to Guillermo del Toro because you don't know what it's hard to nail down. Yes, it's always hard to nail down exactly how involved he was, which is amazing because it does still feel like one of his films. And I think he helps foster that because a lot of his films have this very colorful, strangely, especially for this, this genre specifically, but also fairy tale-esque in a lot of his movies. And that is definitely no different here with Mama. So it's about these 2 girls that are found by a couple, found by this guy. I think he was a hunter, and they get adopted by family. I believe it's their someone's niece or something. I don't remember for sure, but anyways, I believe it's family. This couple, fairly young couple, and also I think a pre-Game of Thrones, Nicola
co-star,
Hand of the King. Can't say his last name.
Coster Waldo.
That's the one. Sure, we'll go with that.
You can't find him, but he's there.
Exactly.
Waldo.
Gosh, he's in the striped shirt. And so I watched this movie, and again, it has this fairy tale feel, and it starts off, you just kind of get hooked by this idea that these feral young girls who are like 8 years old or somewhere around in there, 8 to 10, are just completely, it's like they've been raised by wolves. It really is. They've been living out in the woods, and they have no idea of what life is like in a city or in a house or anything like that. So you have that whole story kind of hooking you. But then as the story continues, you find out that there's this other entity that they call Mama, and you start to learn about who Mama is. And it goes beyond a simple, I don't want to say haunting, but
It's a ghost wolf.
possession. Yes, it's a dire wolf. It goes beyond that kind of haunting / infestation of some spirit into more of a protective mama role. It's this thing that took care of them when they were in the forest. Spoilers, I guess. And that whole idea, learning about who this mama character is, finding out it's not just some demon or whatever, but it's actually something that was kind of a force for good in a weird way, but it's fighting against our nature of who we are as humans, right? Like we look at these two girls who haven't been civilized and we think we need to correct this. We need to fix this. And like Mama, this demon or whatever, this spirit is like, hey, I've been over here taking care of these girls just fine, and I will protect them like a mama bear. And that whole aspect of the story, I remember just hooking me. And I really want to go back and watch it again. And it makes me kind of sad that you couldn't find it on streaming. I wouldn't mind purchasing this one though. And the ending was climactic. I remember that also. And just more than anything, the way the film looks, again, going back to just
that's definitely Del Toro.
The aesthetic. Yeah, it very much is. It almost has this motorcycle race to it.
Josh, is the Fast and Furious taking off over there? What the hell's going on at your house, man?
Inner city.
We get it here as well.
It's not great for podcasting.
You should yell out the window. Can't you tell I'm podcasting over here? Please keep your motorcycle down.
Dude, tell Dom to cool it, please.
Oh gosh.
He knows we're almost done with him. He wants to keep it alive.
But yeah, it's almost graphic novel-esque in a way. It really is. And sometimes things are style over substance, but I think that generally on a whole, Guillermo del Toro's movies, whether he's presenting them, directing them, writing them, making a video game, whatever it is, it tends to be pretty measured, and there's a little bit of something there for everybody.
He doesn't just put his name on anything.
Yeah, that's true. But he'll put his likeness in.
I was going to ask, are you guys fans
of Guillermo? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Yes. I went back and watched some of his earlier stuff, even just because I was interested to see, like, sometimes we're directors like this who kind of have this aura about them, like presented by, like, not everybody gets to do that.
Yep.
Work with video game creators. You want to see where they started from. Like, has it always been this way? And with him, his tone has been, generally speaking, consistent throughout his entire oeuvre, if you want to get real fancy. His body of work, starting with his Spanish-speaking films, which I was glad to go back and kind of check that out. So I would tell anybody to do so, just as a exercise in movie elitism.
I was going to ask because I feel like so many of his movies, especially in the horror genre, I feel like miss the mark for me. And it's one of those things where I don't feel as connected to people because he definitely has that reputation, right? He's lauded. And it's like not many of them I really adore. And all the things you were saying about Mama, and I remember it just made me keep thinking of Crimson Peak, which is one that I actually like. And,
I like that one too.
He's definitely that visual flair, that ornateness is kind of a definite ringer for him. And I always love that about his movies, and not that it's the same because it's very, very different, but it does always kind of remind me when I watch that film and some of the others, I always kind of have that shining feeling where it's just like, look at everything that's going on. Everything seems to have purpose, visually, not just like we're shooting the set because it looks cool. No, it visually has a meaning. And
yeah, there's story there.
Yeah.
And I think that's the strength of Guillermo and probably the weakness of his films in the horror genre is that there's story there. And sometimes a horror, like somebody looking for a horror movie may want jump scares and that type of horror, the whole roller coaster ride.
Yeah,
right.
like
And you're
Yeah.
definitely not going to get that here. And that's probably where his films don't deliver.
Okay.
And probably why I put this at number 3, Mama.
Number 2 for me is The Conjuring from James Wan and Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga.
We're going to have some words.
Tony, I'm so confused by this choice.
Horror royalty. Okay, I love so much about this movie, but I just want to say, I want to ask, has there ever been a more famous, well-known paranormal investigator researcher than the Warrens?
No.
They are. Their entire life history is just, I mean, it's already famous for Amityville, right? They are all a part of that, and that's what most people know for them, and that's been in forever. And I kind of wish the Conjuring universe would bring Amityville into it and redo it, because maybe, I don't know how you guys feel, several of the Amityville movies missed the mark for me.
I've only seen the recent one.
I would like to
Ryan
see
Reynolds.
a really, really good one. That would be fantastic, but This movie I absolutely love. It has Ron Livingston, who makes an appearance from The Office, and I always
full dad mode.
Do you guys ever get confused him with Kyle Chandler?
Yes.
Kinda, yeah. Like they kind of look alike. They play
that.
a lot of the same roles. And that's
I can see that. Yeah.
Yeah. I think the Warrens' history is awesome, and I am a Conjuring universe fan, and you guys already know that about me, so I'm absolutely bringing that bias here. I love the Conjuring universe. I love the Warren stories. I think because they are rooted in reality, this story, The Conjuring, is rooted in reality of the Perrin family hauntings of Rhode Island, Josh. So
yes, very close.
Yeah, and like the house is there and all that, and the Bathsheba and the lore and everything that people don't know if it's true or not, but
it's all that colonial history.
An infant definitely died in her care. That's documented. A needle was put through an infant's skull. Like that's documented by police. That happened on her watch, and then she died. Yeah. And all of this has become lore since then from speculation. Everybody thinks she was a witch and all that. And whether it was true or not, I don't really care about it. I think it makes for great storytelling and great scary horror movies. And The Conjuring is a great movie. It's by the book horror, right? The house is haunted. Family moves into the house. Guess who won't go in the house? The dog, right? The kids start to get haunted. Yep. The wife starts to get haunted. You get possession. You've got an exorcism. People change faces and things are happening. And I absolutely love it. There's so much of why I like horror and also why my wife likes horror. And I think the Conjuring universe is a place where our two interests, both my wife and I's, meet in so many different ways, because she doesn't like slashers like I like slashers, and I don't like thrillers and dramas like she does, and the Conjuring universe kind of brings a lot of those at an intersection, and I think that maybe enhances it for me personally. I think that's why I bring so much enthusiasm about the movies. I think Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga are some of the best cast characters in horror movies of this modern day. I don't know if I could ever think of a better casting than both of these. I think they were both casted perfectly. And it's kind of like, I always think of roles in the sense that, like, I think Robert Downey Jr. was born to be Iron Man. I couldn't imagine another Iron Man.
Sure.
I can't imagine another Warren couple. They are the Warrens. It's so good.
You have to have somebody who looks the part for that era too. You can't just have anybody step in and be 70s era, and they do such a good job of doing that that it, like you say, it's hard to imagine anybody else. I
They sell it so well. I think it's just sold. And I was there when it came out. I was so excited for it, and I've been for every one since. They set up Annabelle in the movie, which everybody's terrified of Annabelle. The original Annabelle didn't look anything like the scary doll. I try to tell my kids that I secretly want an Annabelle doll. I'm trying to get Chucky a friend, and my kids are losing their minds. They're like, "You can't have Annabelle." I'm like, "You realize the original Annabelle was Raggedy Ann. It didn't look anything like this doll." But they're terrified of it, and that's just from the movies, and they haven't even seen the movies. They just seen trailers and snippets, and they know that I like the movie, and they're terrified. So anytime a movie can scare kids without them even seeing it, is a winner in my book, and for all the right reasons: possession and the religious and the exorcism and the haunting. And I was reading up the true story last week when I was looking up some of the fun facts about this movie. The parent family, they accounted for years, decades after the real life things happened, that they were haunted. They never broke character. So whether you believe them or not, they believe themselves, and that's all you really need to know.
Visited their museum are notoriously haunted or ill-fated.
Wow.
Not even a joke. Die on the way home. Things like crazy. Unless these two people are killing those people on their way home, it is insane. Some of the stories that have happened to people.
I was
who
so
just
upset that
visit
their museum got
the
shut
museum.
down. I've always wanted to go. My wife said she would never step in. She was like, "I'm never walking in there."
I probably wouldn't go
I
either.
absolutely wanted to go. It would be amazing. But for all the right reasons, this thing kicked off, like 10 movies since? So just to give you an idea of how popular this movie was and is, this movie itself has had 2 sequels and another one that's on the way. And it kicked off Annabelle and The Nun and all the other things that come with it. And it's a big favorite of mine this decade. And again, speaking to how great 2013 is number 2 for me.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Well, for me, it was my number 1 pick, actually.
Wow.
And I watched it today, less than 24 hours ago. And I'm glad I did. I rented it, and I'm glad I did because I haven't seen it since it came out in theaters, and I remember liking it in theaters. I remember actually being excited for this movie, just the whole premise around it, like the whole true story of it and everything, the ghost hunter feel of it. And like, I wanted it to be good, right? I was hoping it would be good.
How many movies in the horror thing have the paranormal investigators come in and it's cheesy and corny and dumb?
Right.
And this is never that.
It's slamming doors and
like
and whatever
Insidious.
else.
Insidious Chapter 2, kind of stupid.
And you put it best when you say it really is a combination of a ghost story or a haunting with an exorcism, and it's like the best of all of those worlds put together. But they really make the world, like you said, it doesn't even matter if it's true or false in the sense of it being a movie. It is so much more entertaining when they surround this with story and news articles and stuff that really just makes it like, I don't care if they actually clipped out real news articles and filmed them. I really don't. What I care is that they build this lore that makes everything that's happening believable. It makes the people who are telling you that, like, don't take Annabelle out of the case. This movie's not about Annabelle at all, but they talk about it, and it makes you go, these people know what they're talking about, and it gives weight to everything that happens in this movie.
I've talked about it in the past with Grouchy Surge, so I'll give a little plug here. It really is the MCU of like horror movies, and that so many things get laid and alluded to and dropped for future things. And if you buy in and you watch all of it, I think you have a bigger appreciation for all of it as opposed to just seeing the one.
The last thing I agree. The last thing I'll say too before I forget is this is a very good example of pacing in a horror movie, because there's always this ride happening that we talk about, right? But this is a perfect example of, let's have some family time. We're going to transition this family time into something that might be scary. Oh, false alarm. Next family time. Actual scary things are happening now. And you're not just getting these, for lack of a better term, jump scares, but also you are endearing yourself to this family and you want to see them survive this.
Yeah.
And that's
true.
another important facet of these movies. Isn't just a haunted house.
And the jump scares, like they build on each
people.
other as they build to, the climax. They all kind of make the other one, they all tie together. It's not just jump scare for scare and then it's on to the next one.
Right. When you see, it's done in such an order that when you see the wind blow a sheet off the clothesline and it wraps around a figure, by that point, you know that is bad news. They don't use it early as like a cheap jump scare because you're just like, okay, who could that be? But now you're wondering, oh no, who could that be? Is what spirit?
I was
going to
bring up the sheet. That's a great scene.
It really is. It really is. So many examples there, and I have a new appreciation it had been so long. I'm glad I watched it, and that's why it made my number one.
Maybe even an homage to Halloween. There's a sheet scene there too. What are you, Josh? What do you think of The Conjuring?
3 sheets to the wind.
Or do you
Donnie,
give us your number 2?
The Conjuring is out of my comfort zone.
Okay.
I can't. I mean, I might watch it. I thought Hereditary was out of my comfort zone before I watched it because I thought it was the type of movie The Conjuring is. It's not.
What do you mean by out of your comfort zone?
I have a tough time because of an early exposure to Poltergeist with poltergeisty movies.
Gotcha.
So it's just like Paranormal Activity. That was a mistake for me to see that in theaters. I didn't sleep for months.
That's why I love them.
So I just have like this adverse reaction to it. And obviously I am the type of person who can separate myself from cinema in real life. But for whatever reason,
Anxiety doesn't care about that.
those movies don't clear that checkpoint.
Yeah.
I get you. I think.
And I saw that, and you mentioned that sheet, and the second you said it,
Gave you chills.
I remembered the trailer.
That's how
The
damn good this
second you
movie
said
is. It's so
and
good.
then, as soon as you said it, I immediately went from considering watching it
Nope.
to not gonna watch
It's
it.
so funny because with slashers or anything that's like beyond that, my wife is a total no. But the moment you root something in like possession or ghosts or religion, I think it's that element of realness that she needs to buy in. She loves those things. Like they pull her in a way. And I could watch 100 Conjurings and she would be right on the couch with me every time. Like she gets into it. It's like almost like a true crime thing. You know, she wants to figure it out.
Growing up, my mom, she always believed in
She's also Catholic.
ghosts and psychic dimensions, stuff like that. So that stuff was always present in my life. And I have memories in this house I'm in now, seeing a wedding gown go through the dining room, which is right over here in the middle of the night. And I also have memories of smelling my grandfather's cigar in the room he used to live in here, which is my bedroom
Oh man.
now, but he had passed 5 years before that. So I have this.
So you're just
weird,
like hesitant to even
I
dare?
haven't cleared the I don't believe that it's possible realm, which is why it's tough for me to watch those movies mentally, I think.
When the first thing you tell that the movie tells you is this is based on a true story, like I don't blame you at all.
And then I read all the things. It's so close to me, like I could drive there in 40 minutes. It's so close to me that there's a lot of people in my area and friends who do those like haunted journeys in October.
Yeah.
And they were doing that. Hey, we're going to the Conjuring House Museum or whatever, like right after the film came out. And then all of a sudden, all these articles are coming out about like the real life stories about what happened to people who went to visit the museum, not just like lived there or knew these people, but just people who get caught up in this thing that if it's real, you shouldn't be caught up in. So yeah, that's when my brain has a tough time separating I don't have a firm stance on if ghosts are real or not.
Is it hailing?
Yes.
Period. Okay, that's what it was.
I was gonna say.
Did you hear that? Yes.
Yeah, totally.
Yes, that's what's happening right now. Like this is the third time in like 15 days this has happened. Josh, I 100% agree with you, except that I like putting myself in those situations. That's the situation where, unlike most horror
You
movies,
feel alive.
that's the situation where my hairs stick up and I'm like, now we're talking. Now I'm feeling something that most things can't make me feel. I'll never forget. I can only say it now because it's so long ago. It'll never make it into our podcast list. The Exorcism of Emily Rose. How real they played that movie and how much they detailed like the hauntings and the devil's witching hour and stuff. I won't get up at 3:15 in the morning. Like I'll wake up and look. I'm like, I'll hold it. I'll wait. Like nope, I'm not doing it. Because even if you think it's insane or asinine, there's still just if it's 1%, that's all it needs for you to be like, not gonna risk it.
Yeah. When I saw The Sixth Sense in theaters, the scene where he is in the tent and he has to go to the bathroom, and it's a red tent, and that ghost lady is like patrolling the kitchen and goes after him. when I was living, I was younger. I was living at home, and I don't know why this would ever have happened, but my mother had a red lampshade on the light in the kitchen that she left on at night, and I had to go pee, and I opened the door from my bedroom, and the kitchen was glowing in red light.
You were like, nope.
Oh no!
I was
Pissed yourself.
terrified.
And this is why horror movies are amazing. There's no
Yes.
other movies that can garner these sort of feelings, that can make people change their behavior.
Ruin your life.
I don't know. Ever since I saw Billy Madison, I pee my pants every day.
Oh
That's
man,
what all the cool kids.
what an amazing
do.
movie! And it's number 2 for me. Number 2.
I think I'll watch it. I think I'll suck it up and watch it. I'll watch it during the daytime though.
It gives you breathers, so it's not like it's a nonstop. I think you'll be okay.
And the Warrens,
it's
because of Patrick Wilson and Vera, like they're charming.
Yeah,
Like they are.
That makes it easier to watch.
They are. It's just like these are nice people.
They're so charming. So my number 2 is World War Z. Actually, I never thought going into World War Z this would even be a movie that I held in high regard. But it's actually super underrated given the budget and the actor. You would think it wouldn't be.
A Brad Pitt movie, underrated.
It blends Outbreak and a zombie movie together.
That's true.
It adds 2 heightened fears to this guy who's just trying to do the right thing, and it's scary in a lot of different ways. You have the family element, right? So it's scary, and I haven't watched this movie since I had a kid. I think that would change even more, because I started noticing some movies I watch, like the Owen Wilson movie, when he's in the country that gets taken over during the Civil War. He has to throw his daughters across a roof.
yeah.
I recommended it for Flux for a Watch It Played. I Watch It Played for our next Netflixation. Like movies like that, I find I have this like different reaction to now, but they really captured a new version of zombies, right? Like we already know fast moving zombies. We know that. But it added this level, because not only are the zombies scary outside, like what they can do in the open, but he's dealing with these things in close proximity for a lot of the movie, and it's not just escape the zombies, right? It's I have a mission, I have to get this like cure, and I have to get this through over multiple countries, and it's adapted from this brilliant Max Brooks book, which I think they did a pretty good job at adapting. I just really enjoyed it. But once again, in like the Donnie year of horror movies, this could have been 3 instead of Texas, or 4 if maybe I saw The Conjuring and
It's my number 5. If that gives you any
and other movies. I don't want to make it sound like I'm defending my choice for picking it, because I still do genuinely think it's a very good film, but it also straddles the horror border, right?
So one of the things that I did write down is Mark Forster, his Monster Ball, Quantum of Solace. Yeah. So he's got some stuff there, and obviously, Brad Pitt.
Quantum of Solace, the worst new James Bond movie.
Is number 5 on my list, behind another one I'll name when we're done. I think it's a great blockbuster. It's definitely a zombie movie. It's a good zombie movie. I watched it last year. I definitely think some of the thing that takes you out of the horror is the fact that this entire world is crumbling, and yet Brad Pitt keeps finding ways to like globetrot from America to Israel to Britain. It's a little like, but it does bring a lot of the realism of kind of like contact tracing and the pandemic and stuff, and like the whole cure thing I do think is a bit cheap. It's kind of like this War of the Worlds type of thing. It's like, but we've known the solution the whole time. So that part kind of, and like the ending doesn't stick the landing with me. That's the one thing that I always remember about that movie, of him just walking out of that hallway and everything, just everything's cool. I'm like, Okay, that's dumb. For everything that we've set up
I
this
was gonna
entire
say,
time,
wasn't there a part
bothers
at
me.
the end where something with a pipe or something, and he just does something
Look,
that
this is a giant blockbuster movie. It was the #1 movie, right, in the box office.
yes.
So
One.
I'm not going to be bad in spoiling it. Basically, what they find out is that people with immune deficiencies, the zombies don't want to kill. So they infect themselves, and then the zombies don't attack them. So he infects himself as he's being haunted across a door, and he literally just walks out. And that's like basically the end of the movie. Just him walking down a hallway as zombies, don't attack him around him. And it's just like, I get it. I understand, like I said, War of the Worlds type thing. Like, I understood the ending and definitely get what they were doing. I just don't think it's a very good ending based on the amount of destruction and everything they've shown to that point. It's
I think I need to go back and watch this with a different lens, because I think there's something there for building a new zombie breed, like you're talking about, a new contagion / zombie crisis.
Yep,
or, you know
that's exactly what it is. Yep.
There's something there that's being played with that I can appreciate.
And it's a smart
like
movie.
you said,
Like, that's another thing that I do like about it. It is a very smart movie. It's not just destruction for destruction's sake. Like, things have reason, and he as he journeys, he picks up all these little things that lead to the ultimate, I guess, discovery, the eureka moment. It just feels like, for what the eureka moment is, it feels like somebody would have noticed it at some point.
Sure, you would think that we wouldn't be in a pandemic in August either.
that's true. Touche.
Okay, that's my number 2, dudes.
What's your number 3? Please remind me. I forgot.
My number 3, Texas Chainsaw.
Thank you.
3D.
For those
in 2D.
Score at home.
I can't imagine watching the movie in 3D. Why? There's a scene like at the opening where she's cutting meat at a butcher shop, and it slides towards camera, and I just like audibly went, "Ugh, that was one of the shots."
Listen, I will never forget my experience at I forgot. Never mind.
Paranormal Activity.
He said, "I'll never forget my experience." That he forgot.
I forgot.
Universal Studios. Terminator 2. The Terminator 2.
The ride.
Yeah. 3D glasses and everything. When I was young, that 3D, I remember still the
Did you think the people walking in front of you were 3D?
I hate you.
That looks like Sarah Connor's really here.
That's where all my love for VR and 3D come from. So what I say, how can you watch a movie in 2D?
He's still chasing that high.
I am. Nothing gets better than Terminator 2 from 1994 whatever.
Well, next movie you watch, just put on some goggles. I'll stand next to you and blow in your face. Yeah.
Okay, thank God.
Lucas, number 2.
I told you my number. My number. No, number 2. I'm gonna lose some people here. I don't know if you guys have even seen this movie. You may know of it. I hope someone here has seen it.
I am shocked that you're not going to list me and Donnie's number 1 movie.
That's true. Yeah.
Go ahead. What's your number 2?
Under the Skin with Scarlett Johansson?
I've seen that movie, yeah.
Okay.
I just found out what this movie is about. I honestly, before last week, just thought it was about Scarlett Johansson being naked.
Being naked for like 1 minute. Probably a body double anyways. Well, maybe not.
No, it's not.
Okay.
Trust me.
I better go back and watch it. So Donnie knows exactly why, besides that reason, why I would like this movie, I'm sure. Because it is very slow.
It is.
It is very thoughtful. I don't want to spoil it, but it's hard to talk about it without really giving you the crux of the entire story. So it tells you almost nothing. It starts with the weirdest, like one of the weirdest intros. You have no idea what's going on. This person is stalking another person, killing this person, and assuming its identity for the best. No, it didn't. Stop it. This just in.
Not again. I thought after the first 2. There's no way.
Fine, I choose whatever your guys' number one is.
No.
March
No, I
14th,
just- You're
2014.
not supposed to
No.
read the chat out loud. I would have just said it into the microphone.
Why is it okay? IMDb needs
April
to fix.
4th, 2014, the United States.
No, it's not true.
It is.
Well, technically,
It's
it came out
totally
in
true.
Toronto, so
Look,
we
look.
gave
Lucas.
you a different
You're
country
Lucas,
earlier.
listen to me.
In this list, then
Lucas, it didn't make my list, so I'll allow it. But
USA, 29th of August, 2013, at the, as we all know, Telluride Film Festival.
but we are going off of
I know that.
theater releases.
Why would I can't be expected to look up all these movies.
Continue. I want to hear more about this
So
one.
folks, yes, this movie was not going to make my 2014 list either. So by all means,
Yeah, it won't make mine because I've never seen it.
Anyone's gonna talk about it in the next
Keep going. It was too good to not type that though.
you just can't use it next episode.
I hate it. I hate this website. I hate this rule. So under the skin, you have this person killing people and assuming their identity,
Yes.
and you don't know why. Throughout the movie, you basically learn that Scarlett Johansson plays an alien entity of some sort, a very alien entity that doesn't really have a form. When she abducts these people, she takes them to this weird white room, and all this black goo starts filling up the entire area. She'll lure men, women, doesn't matter, into this black pool, and they're basically never seen again. I don't know. It's just alluring. It's so odd. There's very little dialogue. It is very weird. It reminds me of parts of that Natalie Portman sci-fi horror Annihilation.
Yeah, definitely.
It's like all the weirdest parts of that movie, but for 2 hours or whatever. But there's some interesting things here. This entity starts to empathize with humanity. It starts to wonder about its purpose. It falls in love with a person, a human. None of this is said, really. You get this impression through the acting. Imagine that. But those messages and that story and the idea that an alien whose sole job is basically to harvest humans, as far as we can tell through the movie, was just an interesting night for me, where I just put this thing on and it felt like this weird vision quest or something. You know, this whole movie, it has odd music, has this odd imagery. You don't know what's going on, so it leads you to want to watch more to get the answer to the question. And then you get to the end and you don't really know if it was worth it for that whole entire journey. But it was more about the journey for me than it was about getting to the end and finding out the answer. It was about what was happening to this entity and the feelings it was feeling, and how it almost seemed childlike because it didn't know about the world. I don't even know, watching the movie, if it knew what it was doing. And like, those questions are what drew me to this movie.
There's a movie that we're definitely going to talk about later on at some point in this podcast that I'm going to remember everything you just said about this movie, because
is it next year in this movie?
it's definitely one of the reasons why I think, because it's going to make my list, because I definitely agree that it's great, but it definitely left me hanging and I hated it for it. So we'll talk about it later.
61st on the BBC's 100 Greatest Films of the 21st Century.
Wow.
I wouldn't. That's real high for me.
It's
That's high praise.
It's one of those movies where you really appreciate it or you find it completely boring. And I can understand both sides. I really can, because this is the movie that I watch by myself, because I know nobody else is going to go on that journey with me. They're going to be like, 20 minutes go by, what the hell's going on?
I was definitely that guy that I watched it. I remember watching it and I was just like, this is weird and I'm not really into it and it's kind of dumb. And
I don't blame you one bit. I really can understand that.
5.2 million pounds on a budget of 8 million pounds. It was a commercial disaster.
It's not a movie for everybody.
No, it's on my list. Actually, you sold it to me.
I'm apologizing right now, but
In fact, I'm going to make my wife watch a movie, so I So in case she walks in the room and Scarlett Johansson's fully nude in front of a mirror, I can get in trouble.
Just make sure if you start the movie. Oh wait, no, there's 2 scenes at the beginning and towards the end. So as long as you're watching in the middle,
Honey, come in the middle.
Oh my god. Okay, number 1 on my list. Produced by Robert Taubert, Sam Raimi, and Bruce Campbell.
No,
Directed by Fede Alvarez.
Fede Alvarez directing the film, a version of one of my favorite book series coming out next year.
A 57 on Metacritic, which is criminal.
Stupid.
Criminal. Is
Everyone's
a remake.
Wrong.
The Remake. My favorite remake in a horror movie of all time.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Evil Dead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You go
By
on.
the way, Jane Levy, incredible.
You go on a limb whenever you remake something so beloved. You remake Texas Chainsaw. You remake Nightmare on Elm Street. You remake Halloween. I have never seen a remake that pulls it off so incredibly well. I personally tell people that I prefer this Evil Dead to the original. I do personally.
Okay.
Because the polish and the production and the modern elements. Because look, don't get me wrong, I love the Evil Dead, and I'm not the Bruce Campbell fan that Josh is, for those of you not watching the video. So I'm gonna let Josh have his speak. But I love the Evil Dead. The Evil Dead for the longest time has been my favorite scary movie. Go ahead, Lucas.
I was going to say, I can agree with you in that this is definitely the more filmic version of the Evil Dead compared to the original.
The original is very indie and it's very ad hoc and it shows. And I don't think that's for everybody, right? Like, I love it for what it is and what it represents. And like I said, for years, my favorite scary movie was The Evil Dead. And it wasn't because of the second one in Army of Darkness and all that. Like, I'm not that fan. I know there are legions of that fan. I'm not that fan. I'm not. But I love the original Evil Dead because, in my opinion, it's the barometer through which I judge all other horror movies off of. I think it's perfect.
Wow.
It does horror storytelling and the standard kids go to a cabin in the woods, and it does the plot and it does the pacing perfectly. I feel like there's very little wasted time when I watch The Evil Dead. And that's not something that I can say for most horror movies. A lot of horror movies lollygag. A lot of horror movies will sit you down and they'll have this period of time where they explain to you the entire history of everything to get you invested into what they're doing. The Evil Dead has never done that. It's like, look, we got some kids. They're going to a cabin in the woods. We're going to kill some folks. There's some possession. It's a bloodbath, and we're out. And I love that it is that. It's kind of like a Texas Chainsaw thing. I love that it commits to exactly what it wants to be. I'm still talking about the original.
Yeah.
And it commits to that, and it goes for it. And that's all it does. And you can't, I can't fault anything for doing that. And when I heard that it was being remade, I was both giddy and terrified. Because I was like, this is my favorite horror movie, and they're going to ruin it. Like they did Nightmare on Elm Street. Like they did everything else. And then I was there the night this movie came out. I was there at midnight. I watched it as soon as I could. I went with my 3 best friends. My wife did not come with me. And
Wolfpack.
I fucking adored the remake. It's perfect. I think it improves upon the original in the sense that it is more filmic. It is more polished. It looks better. It doesn't have that feel, but it's a perfect homage to the original. It lives up to the original in every way, and then I think does the things that the original didn't do as well better. And I don't think it does any disservice to the original ever. There's nothing about the second that I think makes the original look bad or it doesn't live up to it. I think in every way possible, it feels like it was handled with extreme care. And looking at who produced it, and I imagine, I don't follow the movies like you guys, because Josh, you might be to school me here. I imagine they had to be heavily involved. Either that or the director was a super fan.
all 3 of them are producers: Bruce, Rob, and Sam.
I mean, I love the way it looks. To me, the Evil Dead remake, 2013, the perfect amount of gore for Donnie. It doesn't go too far.
Yeah.
It doesn't shy on it. It's not implied. It's there. There's a lot of it. You get all the amazing scenes. You get the kiss scene. You get the nail gun. All of it I love. It's brutal. It is a bloodbath. It honors what the original was, but it doesn't.
Yeah.
It's not Saw. It's not Hostile. It doesn't go too far. It's not torture porn. It's horror. It's a scary thriller. It's exactly what it's supposed to be.
And it's short.
It's perfect.
It's concise.
I love it. I love it. And I always bring up the pacing. And I think when I say pacing, that's what I mean by short. It's extremely tight. Like I said, you don't feel like there's any wasted scene. It does exactly what it sets out to do. No more, no less. You're in, you're out. It's exactly what it sets out to do. And for that reason, I love it. Like I said, for years, I told everybody The Evil Dead was my favorite movie. And after I saw this one, I tell everybody that this one is my favorite horror movie.
Yeah.
And that's the highest praise that I could give it. And again, not even like the Bruce Campbell guy. I know there's a lot of people out there, and I'm not. I really am not. I think the second one's like hard to watch for some cases. Like it was super weird, right? For somebody that really likes slasher horror movies, like that is not typically my jam. But this was my jam. It basically took The Evil Dead, which I loved, and then added more things that Donnie loved to it and re-released it. And that's what The Evil Dead 2013 is. So that's it for me.
Yeah.
Wow. How do you follow that up? Goodness gracious.
Well, I guess I have to tell you my number one. It's
boy.
The Evil Dead.
Big surprise.
Did you see the extended cut, Donnie?
Yeah, yep, I've got it.
Okay.
I watched this last year on the 100 horror movies. You guys remember? I watched this with my wife, and she kept covering her face. She's just like, Donnie, this is too much. But to me, like, it goes right up against my line where I'm like, oh, I'm in it. This is awesome. It never crosses it for me.
Everything you said, I wholeheartedly agree with for the most part. I was also terrified when this was announced because we found out Bruce wasn't going to be coming back. And for me, I was worried, like, because I'm a big Bruce guy. Like,
sure.
This is like Burn Notice. He's still like he's still.
I would give them more.
popular.
I'm sorry, I don't want to interrupt you, but I would give them more credit the fact that how good is this movie and the fact that he's not in
Without
it. They
him.
don't just pander to the fans of the series. They really go for it, and I love it.
Yeah, and then we were blessed with Ash versus the Evil Dead, the series, anyways. So we got that instead of this, which is we get best of both worlds. I thought was interesting. I figured I'd pull it up because you were mentioning it. Like, obviously, this is the more filmatic version, right? The Evil Dead original, $350,000 budget.
Oh, it's incredibly campy, and I love it for that reason. But it's super
and then
campy.
the new one, $17 million budget. So there's definitely a tale of two budgets. Not only did it only cost them $17 million to make this film in 2013, which is basically $350,000 in 1970s money.
Yeah.
It made $97 million. Like, this movie blew it. The fact that we didn't get an Evil Dead 2 is insane. We've had 7 years for them to make a sequel to a movie they made $80 million on.
It's true.
Yes, everything you said about this, I would say in agreement. Jane Levy carries this film because I would argue that her supporting cast is fine. But she's the Bruce Campbell of this film. She's the Ashley Williams of this film.
I would agree.
Her acting in I don't know. I really wish they put out like some sort of documentary. Like, this is prime for documentary, right? Sam, Rob, and Bruce are all back to produce this movie.
That would be good. I would love to see it behind the scenes.
Like, I've read the book. I've read Bruce's book about making the first two. And I would love to see something to the effect of that for this. We just didn't get it. But we're also getting an Evil Dead 4, so I'm actually pretty happy about that.
She got recast in Don't Breathe, too. Something else we'll probably talk about later.
Yeah, and that's next year? No, that's 20... Yeah,
17?
17, yeah.
16.
everything about it, you're right, is like it's true to the original, and I would say more Evil Dead 2 than Evil Dead 1, because like Evil Dead 2 is like their redo for Evil Dead 1, and people didn't really notice back then, so I guess it doesn't matter. But it keeps the gore, right? It keeps the campiness. It keeps the talking deer heads. It keeps like everything that is like what you associate Evil Dead with.
Yep.
It's all there.
Yeah.
And it's told in a
Think of remakes. The Crazies is a great remake, but it's completely different. Dawn of the Dead is a great remake, but it's totally different. Halloween is a great remake, but it's totally different. Nightmare on Elm Street is not a great remake. It's okay, but it's totally different. You know, Friday the 13th remake is completely different. Yeah, like all of them are completely different. The Evil Dead is a remake that's totally the same, and it's awesome.
Do you know what the Mandela effect is?
No.
Yeah, isn't that where
the Bernstein Bears?
Yeah, where you think something and then you find out that it's actually slightly different, but you thought it was
like
this
Jaws,
for so
they
long.
don't say we're going to need a bigger boat.
Okay.
This is that movie version of the Mandela effect. It is so close to the original with the subtlest of differences that you could have sworn that the other version was the same as this one.
Yeah, that's how I feel.
That's how close it is.
Wow.
It's so good. It's easier to get people into. Like, you can get someone to watch this and then get them to watch the original Evil Dead.
That's true.
Because it is so
it's exactly what I did with my wife.
Like, yeah. So, yeah. So I just love it to death.
The fact that the cast isn't like completely over successful and didn't, go nuts is another aspect of just how good the film is. It's not, an amazing cast. It's not Brad Pitt, carrying it to the finish line. It's not like some incredibly famed director carrying to the finish line.
And you couldn't do this with Brad Pitt. You couldn't do this with Jessica Chastain. You couldn't do this with Nicholas Kalstor.
This
Rambo.
movie survives and thrives off of the plot in the movie alone.
Yeah. Yeah,
I love it.
And I said Rambo, I meant Waldo, but no one laughed at my joke. Make sure people know I said that on purpose.
I saw this in theaters. Jason and I actually went and saw it together.
It's awesome.
Because once again, nobody will ever. We're the only two. If we're both interested in something, we know it's probably because nobody else will see it with us. So we end up going together. Because we ain't gonna go alone. That's for sure. And I remember liking it, but I don't remember being over the moon about it. But I don't really know why. Honestly, I couldn't tell you why, and I'm going to. That's what I'm getting to. I was actually just looking up because you guys had mentioned extended edition or unrated edition or whatever.
Yeah,
that is not cheap. Some of these Blu-rays after a few years they drop down to like $10. Not this one, man. This is like $25 still. I don't know if it's hard to come by or what, but I might have to snag that one just because I'm definitely curious as to the extended cut or what have you.
You can rent it for $3 on Amazon Prime.
But I kind of want to own it though.
This is definitely
it's iconic.
This is definitely a movie case movie.
You can own it in 4K for $14.
This is definitely a movie case movie. You want this on the shelf.
I do.
Oh, okay. Well, you can own it digitally in 4K for $14.
Nope. Not good enough.
Is it digital?
True.
Not good enough.
Wait, in 4K? It didn't come out in 4K though.
Evil Dead 4K UHD. Amazon Prime, baby.
It did? Oh, wow. Maybe digitally and they just didn't release a disc. That'd be dumb.
I will say this. I do confuse parts of this movie with Drag Me to Hell.
Of course. My gosh, I forgot about that movie. Yeah.
I was like, when does Justin Long show up in The Evil Dead? Why am I forgetting Justin Long?
Oh my gosh. Before we have some serious talking to do, I think we should let's see, Warm Bodies. You guys remember that movie?
Yes.
Like the fact that that's even listed here, it just makes me want to barf. Here's a movie I'm surprised didn't get listed by Donnie, The Purge.
It's on my list. It was number 4. I put it ahead
Curse
of
of Chucky, Donnie?
It's on my list. It's number 6. All right, let's talk about some of the things that are on my list. All right, let's start with The Purge. I so badly wanted to put it on the list. I think The Purge is one of the more novel awesome horror premises ever. Actually, I would love to just keep. I've said this to, I think, Kevin, I know, is a Purge fan. The Purge is a premise like Children of the Corn that never gets old. I will watch them tell me the same story over and over if they just tell it to me in different ways.
Right.
And for that matter, I think I'm kind of a little let down with some of the direction that the Purge series has gone in, because it's like, what are you doing? Like, you have such a great thing here. Just tell me the same story, different family. Same story, different family. Like, why are you ruining what is such a great premise? It doesn't need to be bigger and better. It doesn't need to be bolder. It's good as it is. You're ruining it.
Yeah, I was going to ask if that's maybe with all these sequels, what a bad taste in your mouth.
I like the second Purge more than the first. And that, when I was going back and remembering, I was like, oh, I love the Purge, but I love the idea of the Purge more than the original Purge. And you're talking about Ethan Hawke, it's great, but here's the thing about the original Purge. It's more like escape room, like house gadget movie, versus the Purge that I want to know is I want to see the city. I want to see anarchy. When I think of the Purge premise, I think anarchy. Law is suspended for 12 hours. People are on the run. I want to see the city. I want to see what's happening. I want the annihilation, the anarchy. I don't want to see some rich dude in his house with his, with his automatic blinders. Like, that's boring.
It's like Safe
almost.
Room with Jodie Foster.
It's Safe Room. It's boring. It's like, this is the Purge. And we're being confined to this house. This is boring. It's not the story for me. So for that matter, it was easy to drop it below your next for me. But I do love the premise. I love the franchise. We will be talking about the Purge in other episodes for sure.
I tried to watch the first Purge. I haven't seen them, and I couldn't find it streaming anywhere. Because I thought for sure, based on what you've said about the Purge, it seems to be one of those movies I just missed that I would probably love.
Another franchise that I think is worth owning. You put that one on the shelf. I have the Purge collection for sure. I've got the Funko Pops. I love the Purge. Like I said, I think it's what a great premise. Law is suspended for 12 hours to let everybody get all the murder and insidious thoughts and feelings that they have out. I love the idea of that. Like, even the TV series was basically setting up, like, what would the Purge, if the Purge was a reality, which is why it's such a great premise, right? Anytime you're like, well, if this really happened, great premise.
Right. Yeah.
If the Purge was a reality, how much nicer would you treat people? If the Purge was a reality, like, that is such a good horror. I die for Wes Craven to make a Purge movie. Like, I'm almost upset that he never got the opportunity, because when you hear him talk about his early ideas for stories and things, like, that's basically kind of what he's saying, but he never got that far. So on the premise side, I love it. The first movie, I just felt like they had the premise, but they didn't go with the premise. They had the premise, but they told a different story. In the second and third one, they have the premise and they show you the premise. And I love it. Right. Like, I'm all for that. And I want more of it. And then they did, like, election year. It's like they're trying to one-up themselves. And it's like, you don't need to one-up it. Leave it alone. So you're ruining it. You're watering it down.
Yeah.
You're making it worse. But my Purge soapbox aside, The Curse of Chucky.
Yes.
In 2013, did you guys know that there was a remake for Chucky, Child's Play, in 2010 that got canceled?
No.
It was originally meant to remake the series, the Child's Play. The original idea of the movie was meant to be remade, and it got canceled. And
I didn't know that.
The Curse of Chucky comes out in 2013, which is almost 10 years after The Seed of Chucky, which, which, the laughter aside, critically panned, right? Have you guys seen The Seed of Chucky?
No, but the premise of Chucky having semen in him is obnoxious.
Oh, really? I love The Seed of Chucky. The Seed of Chucky is The Seed of Chucky is the Nightmare on Elm Street 2 of the Chucky series. It's comedy more than it's a horror movie. And has a lot of gay and like overtones, and for that reason I actually really, really liked it, and I was really happy that Don Mancini got to make that movie, but everybody hates it. Like, it's hard to, like, not everybody, but a lot of people, more people hate it than they don't. I've actually talked about it before, but I never actually said it. There was a great postmortem where he talked about not wanting, at the time, he didn't want to make another Chucky movie because it's all he's done. He wanted to make a different movie. So they said, we'll make a different movie just in the same universe. And that's basically where the Seed of Chucky came from. And I appreciate that stance, because I can imagine you making 18 Chucky movies and being tired, like you're like, I want to do something else. And he basically did. And I just hate that in horror, we're so clinging to things that we love that we can't be open to accepting things that are different. And the Seed of Chucky is definitely different. That aside, back on point, the Curse of Chucky was definitely a return to form. Get back to basics. Have you guys seen this movie?
No.
It stars Fiona Dourif, who is Brad Dourif's daughter, Brad Dourif being the voice of Chucky. His daughter stars, and she is in a wheelchair, and she has delivered Chucky in a box. And they live in this kind of rundown house, and Chucky starts killing people that are in the house, like he did. It's very Child's Play 2. If you guys remember, Child's Play 2, I think
Fire
is
Pit one, or is that the first one?
I'm sorry?
Fire Pit? Is that the first Chucky, Child's Play?
That's the first Chucky, Child's Play. Child's Play 2 is the one that I think is most iconic. That's Toy Factory Chucky.
Oh,
where
yeah.
Andy goes to the foster parents and Chucky starts killing the foster parents. And this is very much Child's Play 2. You're in the house and Andy starts taking out close family members. What you end up finding is they basically kind of relaunch Chucky. It's basically like a reboot. You end up finding that the girl is actually like Chucky's daughter in a way, because Charles Lee Ray, like banged her mom like back in the day and then like tried to kill her but didn't succeed. And then she comes out, so he's back for revenge. And it reboots. Like Jennifer Tilly is not Bride of Chucky. She's a different character. She comes out, she's Jennifer Tilly again. It's basically like a relaunch. So if you were like, oh, like I hated, 90s Chucky and Seed of Chucky and all that, like they basically kind of take the same thing without just killing it off completely. They just kind of recycle it into a different direction. And it sets up the cult of Chucky, where in the future, if you watch that movie too, there are multiple Chuckies running around and shit. Like they kind of set up like this whole like different universe, which I really love and appreciate. And it's really good. And it was a straight to DVD launch, so it doesn't have the fanfare. It didn't have the fanfare. I do remember it launched on Netflix. I was totally watching it the day it came out, and I watched it, and it's good. It's not great, but it's exactly what you expect from a slasher Chucky movie. It's a true to form Chucky movie. It's better than Child's Play 3. Like, it's better than Seed of Chucky, and I think as a movie on its own. And I think Fiona Dourif is a great actress. I never expected when I heard that she was, I was like, oh, this is lame. The actor's getting his daughter in, but it's good. She's really, really good. And sets up to where we're going with the TV show. I think the TV show, is going to be a different universe, but I think it's going to play with what we saw in Curse of Chucky and Cult of Chucky. And if you guys did not know, at the end, Andy Barclay comes back and has a cameo, a little post-credits scene, which is a lot of fun. So there's a lot of fan service in this one, and like a lot of love. It's kind of trying to think if there's another movie quite like it. I mean, it really is. It's like Chucky was great in the 80s, Child's Play 1 and 2. I think Child's Play 3 is middling. And then it comes back in the 90s, right? I actually think the movie's great, even though they have Child's Play doll sex and stuff. It's still a really good movie. It's really fun. And then it starts to go off the rails. And this movie is what really like resets it back to where it is. And it's Chucky again. It's exactly what people always wanted with Chucky. So if you ever liked the old Chucky movies, you definitely owe it to yourself to give Curse of Chucky a watch. It's not an amazing movie. Like you said earlier, it's solid. That's why I didn't make my list. I wouldn't dare argue for it over these other movies that I think are better. But as a person who loves a Chucky movie, I really loved it. So it's definitely on my list. So I had that one on my list. I had The Purge on my list. I had Insidious Chapter 2 on my list. I had World War Z on my list. And I also had The Haunting of Connecticut, Ghosts of Georgia on my list.
Haunting of Connecticut, Ghosts of Georgia.
Maybe the worst titled movie of all time. I think it's actually The Haunting of Connecticut 2, Ghosts of Georgia, which is even worse. It's basically
traveling.
The Haunting in Connecticut is actually a decent movie, and this one is also a middling to good, decent movie. It basically is like slave ghosts, and it's Underground Railroad stuff and all that. So they kind of play with all that, and it's got some effects and everything. It's good. It's not nearly as good as the rest of these, but it's good enough for me to mention. It's a solid 6. If you got nothing to watch on a rainy Sunday afternoon, you can waste 2 hours with it. It's okay.
Can you waste 2 hours with Hansel and Gretel Witch Hunters, though?
I've seen that movie.
It's better than that.
I'm surprised nobody talked about Carrie, the remake.
I thought Donnie would, because he talked about his love for Chloe in that one.
I think I think the original Carrie is, it's just amazing. The original Carrie is great. I think it's the perfect horror movie for girls and just having representation and kind of not just representation. I think it's very, I'm trying to say this the right way because Lord knows I don't have the words. I think it's a great representation of like taking horrific ideals that could relate to a girl and bringing it to a horror movie,
like
on screen.
the female story.
Yeah,
Maybe
Or
not
female
having
perspective.
taking the rape revenge out of it and
Out
just
of it.
having a empowered female character who didn't get raped.
Yeah,
Yeah, that
There you
seems
go.
appropriate. Yeah,
I think
it's like they can have stories too.
they can have revenge without being raped. They can have just blood poured on them, and they can be mad about that.
I would be.
I like the whole idea of just being teased.
Yeah,
Like
like anything that would happen to a guy, you can have it happen to a girl.
parental persecution, like wearing that,
Yeah.
trying to like keeping it to yourself, like all of those types of things. I think my wife really has always enjoyed Carrie. That's why I saw Carrie 2 in theaters. We did see the remake. I don't think the remake was as good as the original. And all the remakes that we just talked about for good and for bad. I wouldn't say this is for bad. I think this is better than the Nightmare on Elm Street remake, but I just think it's just kind of a paint by numbers remake, I guess is the better way of putting it. It's just kind of a remake. It's good. Is it better than the original? No, I would always rather watch the original when it comes to Carrie. At least I think Carrie 2 is, when you talk about angsty and kind of dumb, Carrie 2 is definitely that, but at least Carrie 2 tried to do something, just tried to do something. I guess it's different than how I feel about The Evil Dead, because The Evil Dead in a lot of ways is the same way, but it doesn't feel paint by numbers at all. It feels new and refreshing because it's better. That's why I always say that I think it's better, because I think it's better. Like, it looks better. I don't think Carrie remake does, to be honest with you. The Carrie remake kind of feels like a straight to TV movie.
Ouch.
Sorry to be harsh.
It's about the harshest you can get about a movie, that's for sure.
What about you guys? You guys have anything else that made your lists?
I think Lucas just nailed them. I had Carrie. Oh, Dark Skies, the Carrie Russell one.
I was just looking at that, trying to figure if I've seen that or not, and I don't think I have.
That's like the alien abduction / horror style film.
Yeah, I get that one confused with the other one.
Fire in the Sky?
No, I love that movie.
That's a great
That
movie.
did not come out anytime close to this one.
That was in the 80s.
No, there was another one about being abducted. And
The Fourth Encounter?
yes,
With
I
Mila
think
Jovovich?
there was like a bed in the
That was
poster. For some
terrifying.
reason, I remember the poster. Yeah, I think that one. I don't remember if I saw that one either.
Close Encounters of the Fourth Kind. No, it wasn't.
I was
called that.
like,
it was
wait
like
a
the Fourth
second, no.
Encounter or something like that.
I was going to ask if Kevin Bacon was in it, so it's not Will Patton, which you should never get those two
Fourth-
confused. But I was like, there's
Fourth
a
Encounter.
famous person in that one. But yeah.
Oh, the Fourth Kind. Sorry, it's just called the
Fourth
Fourth
Kind.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
were right.
yeah.
I knew you were right on the fourth part.
Yep.
Fourth Kind. Directed by Olatunde Osunsanmi.
Those are words.
Yeah.
Those
Yeah.
are words.
Would star either
Proper
Poopy Hollow
nouns.
or
Are they words?
Easter.
They may not be words.
They're not. Yeah.
I don't know. Are names words at all, really, if you think about it?
Look,
anyways,
They're nouns.
is there anything else on your list, Josh?
That we hit everything else on the
There was one way down the list on this list that is often wrong about when things come out on IMDb. Called on Netflix, it was called We Are What We Are. It has
I
this-
saw that.
Yes, it was actually a Netflixation, again, one of those movies. And I see the Metascore at 71, and I'm very surprised because you look at this, it's got a older gentleman standing with presumably his two daughters at a dinner table. I don't know about you guys, but I immediately go, these people are cannibals. Spoiler, that's
They
what the
are.
movie's about. Yeah.
Totally
And
cannibals.
so when I saw it and found out the big twist was they're cannibals, it was like,
Do you have that reaction a lot to other things, or is that the first time you've had that reaction?
that they are what they are. It is
No,
what
that
it
they're
is.
Cannibals.
They're
That's what it
cannibals.
is.
They're fine young cannibals is what they are.
I saw the cover of Even Stevens, and I thought they're
These-
cannibals.
No, I thought these Stevens are even. Perfect. I like when things are what they are. That's what I like. But
Oh,
yeah,
that movie's made for you.
I saw it, and I don't think it deserves a 71 Metascore.
Oh.
I mean, The Evil Dead got a 57. I think
Yeah, so
it's-
far
Yeah.
the Metacritics haven't been.
This
very-
is why I
Metacritic just
never
sucks.
use Metacritic as any, like, I never determine whether I want to see a movie or not based off of an aggregated score.
I was gonna
All
say
right,
you can't
well-
aggregate a bunch of people with so many. There's too many outliers of like
I look
tens
for
and
people.
ones.
I look for people and outlets that are dedicated to the genre. It's not just horror, but definitely on horror, but anything. And then I look for what they have to say instead of what everybody has to say, because there's too many Roger Eberts in the world that
Right.
are like, putting as many adjectives as they possibly can into a 130, character review, and it's
Yeah.
just too much.
Evil Dead on Rotten Tomatoes, 63% both audience and tomato score.
Ooh.
I've never seen those scores be the same.
Wow.
That's kind of weird.
Although House of Hummingbird is at 100%.
Well, I mean, it's not like a real barn burner. Really quick, also some other Netflix awesome movies. Bad Milo, hilarious movie. Ridiculous. I mean, comedy horror at
Yeah.
its not finest at all, but it's still funny.
Is that related to Milo? Have you guys seen the horror movie Milo from the 90s?
Is it like a weird ghoulies-like creature?
No.
No, then no, it's not.
Okay.
What it is.
No, it's
All
not.
right. All right.
And then lastly, The Sacrament, which is another one of those cult movies where the brother goes to find his sister, who he believes is part of this cult, and finds this guy who runs this compound who very much looks like I just had his name, the guy from Roseanne. I just had his name.
John Goodman.
John Goodman. Thank you. I completely lost it, but it is not John Goodman. And it was not a very good movie either.
Is she the May Queen?
No, she wasn't.
Oh,
She did have a-
disappointing.
No. And so was that movie. So anyways, there you go.
That's another episode, Josh. All
I
right,
know,
guys.
right?
So 2010, we had The Crazies. 2011, we had Paranormal Activity 3. 2012, we had The Cabin in the Woods. Our 2013 movie. And I mean, I'm going to say it because it's my favorite, and I already stumped for it hard. I'm going to say The Evil Dead, but I'm going to let you know that this is the first year in this little story that we're weaving and telling where I have been absolutely crushed that I can't put 2 or 3 on the list, because the idea that I'm going to do a decade of horror and The Conjuring is not included pains me. It hurts.
I'm banging the drum for The Conjuring. I don't
Ooh,
think Evil Dead.
our first disagreement.
Yes,
I vote for Under the Skin.
you haven't even watched it.
It didn't come out this year. I haven't watched it yet. Evil Dead for me. Sorry, Lucas.
See, the reason.
But I will watch The Conjuring, so we could revisit this.
Okay.
But I won't beat Evil Dead.
I will agree to a specific revisiting to see what you think. You might have to be the tiebreaker, but my reasoning is because it made so much more money, and I think it is a better representation of
Gross.
2013.
That's what you judge a movie on?
Didn't you go to film school? I thought you were an
Oh,
artist.
gross.
I
You
put
just watch Akira Kurosawa films.
You said you
He would
like
be
Guillermo
rolling
del
over his
Toro.
grave.
What's the matter with you? Sell out.
Ew. Sorry, go on.
one had to be the best movie. That's the one that represents the year.
Yeah.
Represents the
I
box
will
office the
happily
most.
play the tiebreaker. I will watch Conjuring. My vote does go to Evil Dead now, but I will, if I watch Conjuring and I really enjoy it, I will rewatch Evil Dead as well. To
And
be
likewise,
fair.
Lucas, rewatch Evil
Yep.
Dead.
My mouse is hovered over the purchase button, so I will also.
On that bottom link I sent, right?
And, yes, I'm going to buy the Saskatchewan version or whatever. The Swedish Yorkish.
Denmark. The list
Sorry.
was never meant to be the end all be all list, and we've said it from the beginning. We're going through year by year. We're going to give you a year, and then at the end, if we've got some honorable mentions we want to tack on, we have full right to do so. It's not just, the
No one's
list
telling
to
us
rule
no.
them all. Yeah, it's our show. We'll do whatever we want. So
If
I'm
you want our
sure
recommendations, come back in 13 weeks and find out what our real recommendations are.
we can find a place to mention The Conjuring again.
I'll talk about movies from the wrong years. There's
Don't worry.
We've got to
You're
get
not
off
gonna
that
be the last
bandwagon. We've
person
got to
to
get
do
off that
this.
bandwagon. So here's my fears. My fear is that actual horror movie critics listen to our show for some reason, and they're
nothing.
they don't even know what year this movie
Ooh.
came out with.
Who?
Okay, an hour and 46 minutes. That's going to do it for us in 2013. Guys, I told you this is going to be a great show. I really loved sharing so many of these movies that I liked and learning some of the movies that you guys liked on this year. I think this is if we have a better year, that's another thing we need to talk about on our final show. We need maybe the better year.
Tweet us if you listen to the end of this episode with just 2013 and tag all of us, because there's no way.
Oh, I think so. We'll have some folks that
wanna
find
hear
it.
it.
This
On
is
the edge of their seats.
Yeah, this is
I wanna know
great
what
stuff.
number one is going to be, because this is the first time that we've had a contentious
It's
list.
true. Yeah.
Well, you rolled right over.
I
did not.
think of the. We're just going to flip flop, and I'm going to be like, "No, you guys are right, Evil Dead," and you're going to be like, "I don't know, The Conjuring."
Nah, I think The Conjuring's pretty great.
And either way, I get my way, so that works. That's good.
There you go.
For me, it's definitely a 1A and 1B. That's going to close the show for 2013, and what a year it was. We hope you stick with us as we continue to lead up through Halloween and all your spooky season stuff. And we'll see you next year in 2014. But until then, this is the end, friends.
Hi, I'm Chucky, and I'm your friend to the end. Heidi ho! Ha ha ha!